Hello and welcome to the RWBY podcast. It is the finale of Volume 8. I am very tired of arguing with dumb people on Twitter. I'm Mediocrity 4.
It is high-powered. Just as this volume is over, also all the trade in the Suez Canal has been stopped. It is high-powered.
Is it you,
As the
high
RWBY
powered?
season ends, the Formula One season begins, and in both cases, nothing has really changed. I am dude.
I don't have a clever quip, and kudos to anyone who realized that is actually a clever quip. I am Robert.
I've got all the fucking clever quips. I've got so many clever quips, they're coming out my balls right now, okay? You want to buy clever quips? Come to Coop. You want to fucking sell clever quips? Come to Coop. I got all the quips. I've got big quips, small quips, medium quips, large quips. I've got quips for days. I've got quips that can get you to the moon, man. Come on down to Coop's Quip Shed over on the corner of Quip and Quip Avenue.
And if you have quips, come on Coop.
Just like the Kumsock in the corner, we bullied Sakukard out of his intro, unfortunately.
No, it's fine. It's fine. At least if you go to the Coop store now, you can get a discount, aka a coupon.
That worked out really well.
But
So this episode also worked out really well, just not for any of the characters we're supposed to be rooting for. This episode got dark. I don't. Okay, so here's the thing about finales like this, and this is why I've kind of been speaking out against this kind of finale since we've started doing the podcast. So there's very serious law of diminishing returns when it comes to finales like this. And so, as dark as this was, I do think it was at least bigger in its like devastation than Volume 3 was. But at the same time, Volume 3 was a dark finale to what had previously been a very light show. This is a dark finale to a show that has had light and dark endings. And so I don't know if it has the same amount of impact as Volume 3. I will say that on the whole, this volume has been a lot tighter than Volume 3. There's a lot less that you can actually like surgically remove without having to rewrite the entire thing.
Such devastation.
I
was not my attention.
would say the volume as a whole, this is probably the most mechanically sound of all the volumes, if that makes sense.
I would agree.
It's internally, but like I think it is actually just like, yes, all the little details mesh together well, but the framework that they seemingly are built upon, it kind of really sucks, and I'm not too keen on it.
I had more of that opinion. Like that was more my opinion on Volume 7. Volume 7 was also very like mechanically tight. It was just mechanically tight in a sometimes really stupid way. And so I really think that has something to do with I'm just going to throw Kiersey out there as the person who is probably responsible for this just based on her social media stuff. She's the more like politically minded. She's the one who's an actual published author, and we know that Eddie's biggest contribution has been the really weird like humor in this volume and in the last volume. So I think this is kind of I think Kiersey's contribution to the writing team has been how she tightens things up that Miles and Carrie come up with, and then Eddie does the punch ups. That's just my take.
I will give her credit for that. I will give her credit for that until I find out that she's the one who fucked up Renora.
I don't think she was involved in writing that episode, so I think she's safe.
Yeah, but she could still be involved in the overall like plot line of that happening.
If she has, if she has like big say over the total overall direction, which supposedly Eddie is the one who is supposed to have that, then yes, she would have been probably the one responsible for being like, let's add some Renora-based drama in here where it's unnecessary. And given her if I just look at her history of writing, seeing as how she's like the only one that has any, from what we know of it, I would not doubt for a second that she was behind some of that.
That was my issue, and I remember saying, I think back in Volume 7, I was super nervous about what she was going to do to Renora. She did exactly what I was worried she was going to do to Renora. So that's why I'm kind of just thinking it's her right now, because this is one of those things where you can't just write that into an episode without having a discussion beforehand. You know what I mean? Yes, everybody, I am still talking about this. The reason why is because it's the only reason I am not immediately saying this is my favorite volume. Because if it wasn't for them fucking Renora so hard, this probably would be my favorite volume. That's how much I like these last 2 episodes. Even with all the other shit that I complained about earlier, these last 2 episodes were that good to me that this would probably be my favorite volume if it wasn't for them.
Dude's like, I'm just getting this out right now. Dude's like, I'm just gonna get this out of the way.
Yeah, that's like the negative thing, because overall, I'm actually very positive on these last 2 episodes. The thing that really impresses me, switching back to being positive, I am extremely impressed at the fact that they were able to I was pretty upset at the fact that they kind of pushed Salem to the side so much in this volume, right? I thought it was kind of too easy to get rid of her for a little bit. And I still think that could be a problem moving forward, right? But I am impressed that they were able to raise the stakes and make me believe that, shit is going to hell despite doing that, because I really didn't think they were going to be able to do that, and that they were able to make me interested and actually feel tension and suspense and all of that, despite fucking that up and making Ironwood just a complete joke, which Ironwood still is a complete joke. That's still a problem. But again, that's not this episode's fault, nor is it previous episode's fault. So
Ironwood more like right now.
These last episodes were great. I am actually let's put it this way. I'm actually going to watch this volume all the way through again sometime soon.
Oh yeah, we got the extra.
I haven't done that since Volume 4. I think it's the last time I rewatched the whole volume.
Well, we've got like the one more podcast to do after this, which is the theory crafting podcast. But we could do that at a much later date.
I don't think we ever ended up doing that for in between Volume 7 and 8, just because so many things were happening in our lives. But
we'll have to now, because this was actually a good volume, and I actually am very curious and interested in what's happening next volume. I wasn't really last volume. That was the thing I said in chat, was like, that's why I'm really happy about this volume, because this is the first time, probably actually since Volume 3, this is the most excited I've been for the next volume. Maybe Volume 4, but like the specific plot lines of what happened, this has me the most excited. So like and most interested and most in suspense.
It really opens up a lot of possibilities. Kind of getting ahead of ourselves with what the post-credit scene was, but there is a lot of different things they can do, and I don't think the series has been this open since the end of Volume 3, because at the end of Volume 4, we kind of knew, like, they're going to go to Mistral, they're going to have to find the Spring Maiden or whatever maiden that they're looking for. I think we already knew it was the Spring Maiden by that point. We knew that Raven was going to end up being involved, because, again, she was in Volume 4 for a little bit. We knew Cinder was going to come back. We knew that Lionheart was in league with Watson, by extension Salem. So we knew a lot of that going into Volume 5. And we also knew about Oscar going into Volume 5.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to make like pretty firm predictions on what could happen. And some of those predictions ended up being right. Some of them ended up being wrong. And some of them ended up being right in a way that we really didn't want them to. Some of those nightmare scenarios we talked about in that podcast that we recorded like 3 years ago now or something like that.
Man, I remember those like 4-hour-long slog podcasts we used to do. Those were wild.
Yeah.
Life really do be like that sometimes, when you have actual free time to do random bullshit on the internet and don't have actual things to do with your life.
Well, and like when we did the Volume 4 podcast, it was the first volume that we were doing podcast, so we were kind of also covering a lot of Volumes 1, 2, and 3. And now after, about halfway through Volume 5, we kind of ran out of old stuff to talk about, so we were just like, ever since then, we're just, keep it to the episode that we're actually talking about. But anyway, yeah, this is definitely the most open that Volume has been, at least since we started doing this.
And I also
Yeah.
like how I feel like a lot of things that happened in this, like, I don't know, because I talked about at like after Volume 7 and stuff like that. I kind of predicted slash hoped, you know, for how the Volume 8 would end, and it actually ended up ending. I think like they ended up managing to accomplish what I had hoped they would accomplish, but they ended up doing it in ways that I didn't really expect. Because my main hope was that this volume would end with them in the belly of the beast, right? With everything just going to shit. And the way I predicted that happening was basically Ruby gets captured, bunch of people die, and I'm still kind of feel like maybe Crow and the Aesop should have died. But they still managed to accomplish it where, we know that going into this next volume, they're going to have a lot of problems. Like, Penny's dead. I was surprised actually at that they like perma killed Penny. That was something I did not
Yeah.
expect. I figured she was going to just be like a placeholder for the Maiden Powers and then like have them removed and then be brought back again. I did not expect them to make her human and then kill her off. That was like surprising.
Oh,
And
I
then-
would
love how
say
dark
that-
they went about it. That was the best part. Was that they gave like, especially the people that probably like Penny. I don't really care for her that much, but like I do like her. I just don't. She's not one of my favorites. You know what I mean? But like they made her human and they gave us like this like, oh cool, she gets to be human now. Fucking dead, bitch. I
Yeah.
like that. That made me happy.
Yeah,
just
no,
because-
they
God,
and
who
I
was it?
I'm just glad that they got that dark. That's what I'm happy about.
I was talking about it with some people last night, and we were talking about all the things Penny never got to do. She never got to poop. She never got to go through
God.
puberty. She never got to have a period. She never got to kiss or do anything like that. She never got to eat food, which might be the worst part of it. The best part of it is
That one
she
makes
never
it
had
more
to go
sad.
through
She
a
never
period.
even got to feel actual weather or wind. Even.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
nothing.
yeah,
She
yeah.
was born in like a void and she died in a void. She never even got to the real world. So she got to be a real girl, but not in the real world even for a second.
Just like her manufacturing
And
day, void were prohibited.
And I love how dark that is. I like that. Like, thank you for doing this show. It's like what that's remember, volume 3 was when I like jumped into the show hardcore and we started this fucking like, or not we, but like High Powered started the server and we started the podcast at the beginning of volume 4, right?
Right.
That's what got me to like, okay, I like this show. They're bringing that shit back again. I'm like, all right, cool. Did the same thing you did with the in volume 3. You kind of not committed to a relationship, and then you did a great job with fucking everything up and making everything really negative afterwards. Nice. Okay, I can live with that.
Also, I love the fact that Jaune is connected to both of those events.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so
He is
weird. Like,
he is responsible after a fashion for the deaths of 2 maidens now.
yes,
And
Oh, yeah. That's
I
right.
also-
I wasn't even thinking about the way they
that's a
killed
very
Penny.
odd
Oh, so
callback.
good.
Amber in volume 3, like Jaune was supposed to be guarding her. He turned around because he was concerned for Pyrrha, and then Cinder shot Amber in the chest with an arrow.
That's right.
Like,
That's true.
that was Jaune's bad. And
Yeah,
then
and he was-
the whole scene we've talked about, time and time again
Yeah.
with him and Pyrrha earlier in the volume.
Yeah, exactly.
So he
Yeah.
kind of led to her death in a way. And then this one, like, he straight up the executioner's blade for her. Granted,
That was
Penny
the best.
Penny
Yeah,
got
but you
to-
cannot
Penny
say he
got-
made the
Penny
wrong
got to
choice.
choose. The thing is with the difference here and why I think this is a little more positive, a little more light than it's visually darker than Pyrrha's death because this time there's actually blood and stuff, which they didn't have in volume 3. But Penny got to choose her own death. She got to actually make a choice and have a say in that. And she made one last decision as she was dying. Like, she kept on like looking at Wise, thinking of Winter, looking at Wise, thinking of Winter, like making that decision there, and decided that like Winter is better suited for those powers.
And
Also,
I
she
I-
also she might have realized that like the reason why Winter hadn't gotten there yet was because she was tied up with something and may need the power boost, which was actually right.
And also,
Yeah.
Winter had been like preparing for it. But I also like that visual of because you hear Jaune scream in, just in pain and despair there.
Yeah,
and I like that
John's
visual
screaming
of-
pain and despair from Volume 3 gets pulled back up in Volumes 8. I can only imagine it's like the cues for it. It's Miles, and it's like, okay, Miles, I want you to pretend that you have that cutie girlfriend that you've always wanted, and she just broke up with you. Okay, now do the lines.
But I also like that visual of red blood dripping off of his sword, because early in this volume we've seen Penny with green blood, and then we get that horrible reminder there with the red blood dripping to remind us, oh yeah, she
This
was
is
human.
permanent. This
Yeah,
is gonna
permanent.
stick.
She was a real girl. Yeah, this is gonna stick this time, and that I almost imagine that's what really made Jaune scream was when he when he stabbed her and realized just that permanence of, oh my gosh, I just killed her.
Yeah, because I mean, it wasn't just red blood. It was blood and tears, and he's just like, I don't want to hear any Jaune slander on my boy for actually making the right choice. Because people are going to turn their grief
up next volume, but
they're going to turn their grief. They're going to turn their grief onto Jaune because, like, why did he do that? He's got his aura, blah blah blah. Because people like to argue about shit, and it's like,
well, Penny already had 5 claw marks in her chest.
Yeah,
she was already bleeding out and stuff.
I also love, like, we knew Penny would ask for Jaune to kill her. Like, you knew that would happen. Like, once that happened. But I love that Jaune actually did it. That's what I didn't expect. I genuinely did not expect them to write that he would do that.
If this was Volume 3 Jaune, he probably wouldn't have done it.
Exactly, right? Yeah. And I love that change. The difference with this volume between the last one is that last time we had Cinder kills Pyrrha, right? And so Jaune loses at least a friend, if not a possible love interest, right? I'm not confirming that shit was ever actually confirmed on his end. Sorry. I still feel that way. But on this time, Cinder kills somebody, and this time Jaune has to finish killing her. And I think that's great. I love it. That was the best part of this volume, I think, for me, besides Emerald being hilarious, which I still enjoy, by the way, even though she hasn't really done anything these last 2 episodes. Or this last episode.
I don't really... I mean, the Jaune killing her thing, that was good. I didn't really like how they went about it with the scream. I think the scream was stupid. He should have just gritted his teeth and fucking done the job. And
he's still a kid.
I don't care if he's still he's not still a kid. The man's a grown man now. He's been through shit. He's seen shit. He's had people die around him. He should grit his teeth. At most, the tears. I don't want to hear the fucking cracked voice scream coming out of him for it.
But he's never killed anyone before this. He's killed monsters. He's never killed a person, and I don't think he has seen many dead bodies around him.
It's literally his antithesis because he always wants to be the hero, even he doesn't want to hurt his friends.
That's like part of it. That's one of the 4 heroic virtues, is fortitude. Okay, if you want to be the hero, you have to embody fortitude of both physical and mental persuasion, and part of that means that if you've got to mercy kill a chick, then you don't just cry about it right when you do it. You try to force yourself through it in the most strongest, most fortitudinous way possible. Like this, him screaming about it like a little girl is not. It didn't hit well with me. I did not like it at all.
Well, fortitude. I mean, for there to be real fortitude, doesn't there also have to be like a real struggle, real pain behind the action and stuff like that? Like,
he did that after the fact. He did
it ever stronger if you do it, even though you don't want to. Even though, isn't that the real strength in doing the thing, despite the fact that you don't want to do it?
Yeah,
and despite the pain that it causes you, isn't that the real strength?
So how is he not showing that? How is he not showing that he doesn't want to do it when he outright says, I don't want to fucking do it, basically, when he's like saying, I don't think I should, and then he doesn't, okay? Well, if you've made up your mind about doing it, it's already too late. You've taken the plunge. Don't scream about it afterwards.
Yeah, I see. I actually see what Coop's saying. I like that they did it. I agree the scream was too much. Personally, I don't mind that. I wouldn't mind. What I would have preferred was just silent tears. I think that would have been better.
It would have been.
I can give you that, but like I don't know, not the whole.
It would have looked better on him. That's all I'm saying. Like,
so either way, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah,
it wasn't that big of a deal. I just got pissed off at it because y'all were disagreeing with me over it.
Well, you're.
I mean, I'm not. Like I said, I agree the scream is too much. So you got me on your side for that one, Coop.
Yeah,
I think it was mostly just to have everyone's attention onto Jaune as well. Also, it was
just like, but I would agree. I would disagree with that.
Battle, like, oh shit, she's dead.
Yes, but I disagree with that writing decision. That's a dumb reason to write that in because
the
character moment matters more than trying to draw people's attention to the scene. I knew somebody was going to bring that up. That makes it worse, actually.
Also, when you have full control over 3D models and a camera, you can always just pan over to him.
Yeah, you don't need to do an audible cue. That's ridiculous.
I mean, I can agree with that, but like the same thing is like the way Coop was wording it made it seem more like Jaune wasn't allowed to cry about it. Like he's not allowed to feel emotion.
He was allowed to cry about it. He was not allowed to let other people know he was crying about it and to cry about it in such a way.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Like you can feel bad about a thing without having a rather immature and inexperienced reaction to it the way he did, because he's experienced too much. He's been through too much already. He knows what the deal is. He knows what he signed up for. He knows what he was doing in that moment, and he made the choice to do it. He can't even really regret it because it was the right thing to do, and he knew it. He can really, really deeply hate that it was the right thing to do. But if he knows in his core that it was right, then he can't let on as though he regrets it.
I think,
buckle up for next volume because I guarantee that's going to be a plot point.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be a running plot point in volume 9.
Am I right in saying, Coop, that I think he screamed for the sake of the audience rather than for his own sake? That's what the writers did, because that's the way I feel about it.
And
yeah, I'd second that thought process.
And like he had shown other things during this episode that had seemingly gone to reinforce about him the development that he had in that. Like, he did extremely well in the fights this episode. He was holding his own crazy good in it.
Gravity shield good. Shield good.
Yeah, and I mean, like, a lot of people would bring this up about Penny, but I will bring it up about Jaune, that the mind, body, and soul are not like three different separate things. They are all interwoven with each other, okay? And he showed off that physical adeptitude in this episode, and if they had balanced it out with some mental and spiritual fortitude to link in with it, it would have just had a wholly much more satisfying vibe to him in total. That would have come across so much better. And if instead of like showing this, having that scream and just showing like his legs and the blood on his sword, if they had panned over to like a full body shot of him where he's just got his teeth gritted and his eyes are just watering from it with the bloody sword in his hand, I think that would have been much more impactful. And maybe if they had, like, in fact made the entirety of the audio silent and shown that even like perhaps Cinder had like a sort of shocked reaction to that action from it, that would have like really hit a whole lot harder for him. And I think I won't say they did him dirty exactly. They did him okay. I think they could have done him a whole lot better in that scene.
I just see where they're going with that, but I do see.
Probably time to move on to a new discussion, though.
The rest of the fight, oh man, there's
it's kind of just a steady like losing of Team RWBY and just being picked off one by one.
Yeah, we knew that was coming.
There's a lot of cool little moments, like RWBY scattering around the bridge in order to get the drop on Neo. I really like that. Neo fell with Ruby.
Neapolitan.
I like how we
Cinder's
forget Blake too.
Cinder's petty ass kicked them both down.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
Blake was hold on. Blake was the
Was
second
Blake
one
holding
to
on to
fall, right?
Weiss? No. Weiss just got flown
Blake
off
fell
by
while
herself
holding
solo.
both trying to save
Weiss-
Ruby. Her line was cut and they both fell.
Yeah, that's right. Blake swung in to save Ruby, and then Cinder just cut the ribbon.
This is why you don't use ribbons as grappling tools, kids. The more you know.
God, yeah.
Neapolitan.
Ruby. So what? Weiss and Jaune know what happened to Penny, but Ruby and Blake and Yang don't.
Yeah, all their weapons
Uh,
dropped, didn't they? Too. So it's like there's gonna be blood on
Oh,
John's
Yeah, and
broken
John's
sword.
sword has
Yeah.
been broken too also.
John's broken
Yeah,
bloody sword. Like, whose blood is that, John?
I really like that. Like, some of them might need new weapons again. That's cool. I like that. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you for putting some shit.
they're like, I mean, like, if nobody
Oh, well,
cares.
Ruby's fell with her, right? No, hers
Hers fell before. Yeah, hers fell before.
Yeah,
Oh,
it fell before, but we saw it in
Yeah,
we saw it in the
saw it.
post credit scene.
At least John's gonna need a new weapon. That's good because
Yeah.
I'm bored of the sword.
Look, I'm gonna tell you
Please
right
don't just
now,
please don't just
they
give him
are-
another fucking sword.
They are
Jesus
trapped
Christ.
They are trapped on Weird Tree Monkey Island. Okay, they will manufacture weapon from stick. This is how it works.
Also,
Pretty
please
much.
please don't introduce a new character on the island. Please don't do
Weird
that.
Tree Monkey
Yeah.
Island will have no less than 6 new characters. 3 of them will be new.
All of them monkeys.
Those are only with the DLC, Coop.
They
Those are only DLC.
they introduce new characters. They're just monkeys, and all they do is just ooh and ah and throw poop at the main cast.
For those of you
point.
who don't know, the reason why we're making monkey jokes is because this tree that we see in the post credit scene was apparently in the most recent book. Sun found his way here in a dream at one point. Yeah, so they're tying it in with the books, I guess. I don't know if this is gonna end up being the same tree, but it kind of fits the description. Someone pointed that out on Twitter yesterday.
I don't really know what kind of tree thing. There have been multiple different things floating around. Maybe it's like an island somewhere on Remnant that just randomly has it. Maybe it's like an alternate dimension of some sort.
I mean, I think this is kind of just my theory. This area in the void is in the void, and it's actually like another planet or something where all the vaults and stuff are actually connected. And so what they're going to end up doing is they're going to find a way through the Vacuo vault. They're going to find a way to there, and then that's how they're going to get out. Like
I
that's
would not
that's my
mind it.
theory.
I would not mind actually if that's kind of like the end of Volume 9 is like Vacuo is already in flames and like they open it up and they're standing there. Maybe that'll be Jean's new sword, the Relic of Destruction and stuff like that, and they're just like,
sort of, yeah.
Okay, this place is gone to shit and we got to break through. Like the Summer Maiden.
The
is
Relic of
already dead and
Destruction
stuff like
looks
that,
at
and they're
John.
like,
It's like,
got
ah,
their powers or
yes.
something. I don't know.
Ah, yes. You
yeah,
are
try to
worthy
sort of
because of your
that's
Magnum Dong.
I do like the fact that I don't know. I thought it was cool with all 3 members of team, like the remaining 3 members of Team RWBY falling. I kind of think it might have been more effective if they'd made these last 2 episodes kind of one episode, because when Yang fell, it's this big dramatic moment, and I was kind of like, oh, come on, we all know she's not really dead. We know that falling isn't really going to matter, and we don't know what's going to, and like, maybe it'll be interesting, maybe it'll lead to some good development for her, but we don't, it doesn't really matter and stuff like that. It was kind of hard to, I don't know, I guess feel invested. But then this episode, when Ruby and Blake also started falling, that was a moment where it's like, oh, okay. So I almost feel like that might have flowed together a little bit, where it's like Yang falls, and that to let us know that anyone can fall, not necessarily die, but anyone can fall. And then when the rest of them start falling, you realize, oh, that's where this is going.
You know what's going to be a funny gag too is they're going to completely forget about like the 20 to 60 people that got blown off the side of the platform right at the beginning.
I hope they don't. I
They'll
hope
probably say-
they don't. I hope they address that. They
They'll
just
probably
straight
just
up
say
build.
they
They
all-
straight up build an Animal Crossing village. That's Volume 9.
I may
I
fall,
guess
but
would
not
be
like
that-
this. It won't be
My
by
guess
your
would be
hand.
that they
So,
just
First
say, well,
half is
none
a
of them
lie.
had aura, so they all died from the blast or died from the fall or something.
So what Robert said a minute ago, that's kind of always the gamble with stakes. So the concept of narrative stakes doesn't doesn't really exist diegetically. Sometimes it does, but in most cases it's more a thing for between the audience and the writer, not the actual characters and
Yeah.
stuff. So like when Yang fell off, nobody really cared because she's a main character, like not just a major character. Penny's a major character. Yang's initial is in the title of the show.
Yeah.
She's not going to die unless it's like the final season.
It's like, it's done. We're putting this, and then the
and then
Amazon box
Title
set's
gives
getting
her
ordered.
fucking plot armor. You don't get plot armor stronger than that.
So the question with that isn't, and the focus shouldn't be, oh man, did they survive or not? It's how did they survive and how are they going to get back? That's why I like that Yang falling was like a third of the way through last volume. Like they didn't even bother having that be a big like, oh shit, cliffhanger. It's just like a thing that happened.
It happened, and then they
So,
just rushed forward.
like the writers aren't trying to like up the ante and be like, ooh, are you gonna call my bluff? They're like, nah, they're kind of like playing their hand and just like, yeah, we're just getting Team RWBY to a point where they're not going to be in vacuo.
Why though? I think it would have been more effective for it to happen for like, you know, all four of them to fall in the same episode, because I didn't really know what they were doing with Yang and stuff, like with having Yang falling. You know, my initial reaction was like, oh, are you guys seriously trying to do like, you know, that Weiss thing that they did in Volume 5 where they impale her through the gut and expect us to think that they'll actually kill her off? And yeah, nobody was fooled then, and so it was kind of like, come on, guys, we didn't fall for it last time. We're not going to fall for it this time, even though some people apparently did. But we're not, you know, there's no reason for us to fall for this. So then letting us know that it's not just Yang, it's all four of them. That's a better way to let us know that, like, oh, okay, this is where they're going with it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because this is
Understand what they're doing. But
it's
yeah,
not-
to let
it's
us know
not-
that we're not trying to fool you. We know you're
Yeah.
smart enough not to fall for this, and you know, go with it. You know, this is what we're actually doing. So that's why I think it should have all been in one episode. But yeah,
Either way, I mean, it's still not really fair to compare it to Volume 5 because it's still way better done. I don't think you're saying that, obviously, but yeah, I don't know. I don't see that as necessarily a problem because I don't think any of us really ever thought that she was actually going to be dead, right? Like I thought about it for like half a second, and I was like, that's right, it's Yang. Nah. Okay, you know, and it was
But there
probably
was that
for more like Blake's reaction, and then, you know, we figured that they were all going to fall as well, and they did, right? The thing that was actually surprising is the fact that Jaune fell as well. That's the interesting part of it.
Yeah, it's like Jaune and Nia both fell, so that's like,
Which by the way, what's the ship called for them two again? Lancaster shippers should be happy about that.
oh yeah.
You think Lancaster shippers are happy about this? Let me tell you, as a former guy who used to ship Lancaster before he swore off all ships altogether.
He doesn't
I'm not
speak for us,
happy
by the
about
way.
it. I'm completely unamused by even the prospect, because there is no prospect. Lancaster will never happen. It is a hopeless wanting.
Well, we
on your
forget that
part.
John's a
I don't
Giga
know.
Chad. All of RWBY, so all of Team RWBY and Neo are going to be walking out of the portal, and they're all going to be pregnant, and then John's just going to have the smuggest grin on his face. He was like, "Yes, I did this."
Now, to be
It's like
fair,
5
like,
girls, 1 guy, 1 island. We've seen this porno.
I've read this.
I've
fanfic.
read this
Go ahead.
dojin.
I've read this fanfic.
Under normal human circumstances, having just survived death and being trapped on an island with a yes, you would expect such things to occur. However, this is RWBY we're talking about. Normal human psychology does not apply.
You think they're still going to be shoving White Rose down our throat or Garden Rose or something?
The White Rose doesn't even get any respect. You're
No,
a
they
White
haven't even
Rose,
done
you're
anything
just
Rose Garden forever either, to be perfectly honest. They
like
have
if
Or do you think
done
RWBY's just going to be pure?
RWBY is like sworn to
the most
celibacy.
they've given us for fucking Bumblebee was Blake being more upset, being the most visibly upset about Yang falling. That's it.
Yeah,
And they
that's
and they put the
So-
quash on. They basically put the quash on fucking Renora for a while now too. I mean, they are just trying to be the ultimate like old school crappy ass anime that just doesn't address romance
Well,
forever.
and you can
Which by the way, again, fuck you for doing that, because the three of the most popular mangas and animes that have come out recently. Fucking Tonikaku Kawaii, they get married in episode 1. Fucking Horimiya, they fucking episode like what I think like in the
I
anime
believe
it's like what, episode 7, and
I
then
believe
they
that
just
actually.
and then in fucking Kaguya-sama, they just fucked too. Like, come on, guys. Like, get that shit out of your head. And again, this is not just a Renora complaint. This is an everything complaint. Stop acting like 19-year-olds aren't gonna get together, even in a war zone. Fuck you for thinking that that's not the case, because you're fucking.
So what I'm
also
hearing here,
to add to Dude's point about like Blake being most visibly upset, you can even make the argument that it was because Blake was the one who directly failed at saving her.
Yep, you could also make that point too. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
me,
you can also got to keep in mind too. Also, I mean, Weiss was the last person to get thrown down the well that's on Team RWBY. So I mean, imagine how she feels watching all of her friends getting yeeted into the abyss, not knowing if they're going to survive or not. Too. Also, oh man,
Just had to throw that like
So-
just like.
So,
I
the,
did-
Yeah,
so the
yeah,
overall
when-
theories
when-
I'm
when-
hearing from you guys regarding shipping is that they're just going to do the whole fairy tale bullshit thing where nobody's together, but there's some slight hints here and there, basically, is what you guys are predicting?
That's what I'm worried about. Or they might just do like, some bullshit like at the very end, like what Avatar The Last Airbender did, which also was one of, again, probably the weakest aspect of Avatar The Last Airbender was its romance. That's probably the thing they did the worst. So
Yeah,
that's not a compliment.
I mean, I would go so far as to say that they didn't they didn't have the appropriate foundations for a lot of these things, and the ones that they laid out later on were not that great. And if they had kept it to a sort of, if they had focused on like maybe one thing period as just this will be the one romantic subplot, we will not have multiple of these, and they had kept their focus on that as far as like romantic subplots go, then maybe I would be like, okay, yeah, that they're doing well with this. Otherwise, I think maybe ultimately like the entire thing with this is that they shouldn't have bothered with it at all, and they should have gone the One Piece route of not having it being a major thing almost anyway, whatsoever. Like,
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I can see what you're saying. The issue was
Yep.
that it's the expectations thing. Like they set expectations about ships and
Right.
romance being in the show in volumes 1 and 2 and 3 very strongly. Volume 4 as well. I mean, that's
did.
again where the
They
issue
did.
comes in.
It was mostly
That's-
a joke in Volume 1, and in Volume 2 they went to a more serious extent with it, and
Yeah.
had and I would say this: if they had kept Volume 2 as being the setup piece for all of the rest of them leading further out, then that would be fine. But they dismissed much of it in the very next volume. The only one that stayed alive throughout up until Volume 6 was Blake and Sun together, which they then ditched then and cut off at the knees right there. So
Which also makes no sense, by the way. And this is coming from somebody.
I mean, well, that's the other thing too. Also, with this, they're kind of sidelighting Black Sun for at least anywhere from a volume to a volume and a half.
They already sidelined it for 2 volumes already.
Yes.
I don't know if they're even going to address it ever again. We'll see. It's very weird the way they've handled all of that, to be perfectly honest, and I don't like it.
I would
again, don't give us expectations that this will be in the show, and like clearly, like still hint at Bumblebee quite often and all that stuff, and then just kind of not address it. Like they're doing the teasing thing, and that's what I don't like. That's what old anime used to do, and people used to complain about it. And now we're finally getting fucking way past that now, and they're still kind of doing that, and that's weird.
I was like, guys,
I don't know how we got on this romance thing, but like mostly just I will
at least give you this, dude. If you're worried about that, I don't think you should be, because it could very well be that a large preponderance of this next volume will be taken up with RWBY and Co. trying to get out of this weird alternate dimension thing. So they might not run into Sun all that much, to the point where it even comes up at that much.
Yeah, because Carrie did say this is gonna be like a detour volume, I think.
Yeah, it could very well be that they've written themselves a little bit of a wiggle room to where they can avoid such things, because I don't think they would get very much positive feedback on it if they were to introduce it from like anybody. And I think even these guys are smart enough to know not to introduce that type of drama into things.
Like, speaking of drama, especially if like what comes to light about even though like, you know, Jaune did the right thing and whatnot, like I don't know, like I feel like Jaune and Neo might do a little teaming up in this next volume, if nothing else, for like just trying to like, you know, cope with whatever their situation they're in.
Neo, I would say, is probably going to end up joining sides with the good guys now, just because Cinder has decided to do something stupid and get rid of a really useful ally out of sheer spite, which is another.
I
was like, I saw that coming. The fact that she didn't see that coming was like, okay.
I don't know what else they're gonna do though, because either they gotta kill her off, right? What's the point of her going to be, you know, of her being against them the entire time?
Especially if she stays mute during this entire next volume.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Watts for a second. Like, I'm fine with her kicking Neo to the curb. Like, Neo did threaten her. You know, Neo not super loyal to Salem anyway. She's useful as an extra pair of hands. She doesn't have much utility outside of that. Watts, on the other hand, that was out of petty. That was petty.
Yeah, that felt bad. It was like, as soon as we just said, you know, Watts is best girl, they fucking just like, it's like, no.
Well, that was petty, but that was perfect for Cinder. That, like, it was so petty, but it was perfect, because yeah. And we talked about this last volume where we weren't sure what Watts was gonna do from, you know, after they were out of Atlas and stuff like that. We weren't sure what he was gonna be able to do, because Atlas is high tech, you know, and Vacuo seems to be pretty low tech.
Yeah.
So we kind of figured that they were gonna kill him, that his days were probably numbered, and also the fact, like, yeah, he called Cinder on her shit, and that was a great moment. But still, she still hates his guts. And so, killing him like she did, that is very much in her character, and I love it.
Say I'm not worthy. Fuck you. Come calling Sam.
No, okay. I got into a huge conversation about this thing. Mm-hmm. The entire reason that we had assumed that Cinder had broken down in tears and decided not to drop Watts was that the lesson he was trying to teach her about not being a complete retard and not getting rid of useless stuff and not going headlong into stupid scenarios it had gotten through to her, and she had finally come around to his teachings that were accurate and right. And so how does she come around to those teachings? She ignores them immediately, decides to get rid of 2 extremely useful characters that could have helped her and would have. Okay? Yep. Like, and then what? For what? What does she gain out of it? She got temporary pleasure in, you know, getting out her spiteful tendencies on them, and nothing else. She has.
I disagree. I disagree with that. I
What?
disagree because Neo has shown herself to be disloyal. She's shown that she can't be controlled, and if Ruby is dead, then
Okay,
Cinder
Neo
no
has shown
longer has
herself to be
anything to
disloyal.
hold her to her. She has nothing to like keep her loyal to her. And in the case of Watts, again,
Survival.
like
She's got survival to keep her loyal. That's what kept Roman loyal to them. And Neo is an acolyte of Roman. Bam, I
but
just got you.
that didn't stop her though from stealing the relic. Like to me, stealing the relic wasn't stupid because she threatened to piss off Cinder. It was stupid because it would potentially piss off Salem. Like Salem probably would have done exactly what Cinder did. She probably would like if Cinder had said, "Oh, by the way, she stole the relic. I'll let you decide what to do with her,
And
boss." Salem would have killed her. Like
no, she wouldn't
she
have.
would.
She kept
Yeah,
Cinder around when she had outright said that Cinder was useless to her.
yeah,
She
because she
she
has
kept
something
many
that Cinder
people
wants.
around.
Because she can offer her power. It's
She's
not
got
just
she's
survival
got certain
that
Neo
was
wants to.
keeping
Neo's just a
Neo in
criminal. She
line.
can offer her riches. She can offer her survival.
But we've never seen that as Neo's main thing. Yes, that
Okay,
was
what does
Roman's
Neo
thing.
want then?
We
What
don't
does
know
Neo
that it
want?
was Neo's thing. You
What does he
said
what
don't put
what does he
words in
okay,
characters'
so
mouths.
what does Neo
Don't put
want then?
words in Neo's mouth.
What does Neo want then?
She wanted revenge. She wanted revenge for what happened to Roman. That's why she
Okay,
stole the relic, so that she could
okay,
get back at Ruby.
okay,
She's got,
so
and now that Ruby's dead, she's got revenge on everyone except Cinder. So
okay,
Cinder does not need her anymore.
okay, except that her needing revenge on Cinder was already told to her by Cinder to not be a necessary thing. So she doesn't need anything anymore at most. And
Yeah.
also,
So
Cinder can
Cinder has
offer
nothing to
her
hold
more
over her.
things like survival and money, which is like what a criminal wants. And Neo is a criminal. She was under a criminal who wanted survival and money. You can make the reasonable assumption that that is a reasonable thing to want now and would be a reasonable thing for her to be offered.
So did Emerald.
Yeah. And Emerald
And
got those
Emerald
things.
betrayed Cinder.
Yeah. In a stupid way that didn't make any sense and everybody said was dumb about how it went
Because
about. Because she
she
never even
realized
had to confront
that there
Cinder
wasn't going to
about
be a
it.
world left when Salem was done with it.
No,
So
she
Cinder knows
didn't.
that. So
She didn't
Cinder
realize anything
has
like that.
still
She
had.
didn't realize anything like that. She just left a whale that was about to explode. She never went through any realization. She never said any of this stuff. She
Yes,
never
they
went
did.
through that.
They
No,
asked Jin.
she
They asked
left a
Jin.
whale.
They found out that he was telling the truth, and so she realized, yeah, she's planning to destroy everyone. This is all in this volume.
The fact that Oscar trusted them with the password to Jin meant that he was telling the truth and that Salem shouldn't, be trusted.
That Salem was going to destroy everything. So,
Yeah.
but all Cinder
Okay,
knows
and
is
so
that
why does
Emerald,
Which is kind of silly.
who she
so
used to hold to her by
look,
promising her wealth and riches, and who, was a lot more loyal to her
that
even then
that is
than
not
her,
what Cinder promised Emerald at all.
betrayed
Okay,
her. She
Emerald
said,
came
join
to
me and you will never be hungry again.
yes, exactly. It was a
So
survival
wealth,
thing, not a
riches,
wealth and riches thing.
survival.
It
Yes.
was a survival and fucking loyalty thing, and it was pure loyalty on her part. She
Yep.
was very much looking up to Cinder on that,
And
and she never
Emerald
interacted with her
betrayed
before
her.
changing sides.
Are we
She had
okay? Are
she
we
had
still
very
talking
she
about
had
why
an
Cinder
emotional
betrayed Neo here,
attachment.
or are we talking about Emerald
Yeah,
here?
we're talking
about the
we're
fact
talking
that
about Emerald and Cinder here now because that's what you put it on. Okay, but we can switch back to Neo. Neo,
okay,
she wants stuff. Emerald, Cinder can still offer her the same stuff. Okay,
but she
it
offered
doesn't
the
matter
same
that
stuff to Emerald. Cinder
yeah.
has trust issues. Cinder has always had a chronic backstabbing disorder. Yes, she has not learned from
Okay,
what
okay,
from
okay,
what
okay.
Watts
So,
taught
so
her.
she's basically just falling into the same flaws over and over, even though she was just taught a lesson about it. Is
But
basically what
she's
you're saying.
also trying to be smarter about it. But yes, she still has these major flaws because she's still a bad guy. So yes, she is still a very flawed
It's still
character,
worthless.
but
It's
she
still
is
a worthless
still.
thing. Is still a worthless thing that she need not do. Okay, and it was still not going along with what she was taught.
But what she has learned what she learned from him was to be smarter about it, to be sneaker about it, and to know who not to piss off, to know not to piss off
Okay,
Salem,
no, she
and
didn't
to
learn that
know
from them.
to
She
just.
started off in the first 3 volumes being smart and sneaky about it, so she didn't learn that from him. She learned nothing. She got nothing out of this. She literally just broke down crying because she was pissed off. That's all she got out of Watts.
All right, let's move off of this conversation.
Characters have desires, they have goals, they also have weaknesses and flaws, and those weaknesses and flaws get in the way of them getting what they want and what they want to do. So, in this case, and because of that, Cinder's actions here make sense in that realm of flaws and characters making mistakes, which characters are allowed to make mistakes. Here is a very good real world example. Julius Caesar, he was very smart about, making people like him. He was very good about trying to take power, but he was also incredibly ambitious, and his ambition ultimately got him stabbed in the back. He was smart enough to not accept a crown because he knew that people would see him as a king and that people would freak out about that. But he wasn't smart enough to not declare himself dictator for life, aka king in all but name, which would also freak people out. So people have desires and flaws, and they make people do things. But I did not mean to make you angry, Coop. I'm just trying to make a point.
I would accept that flaw being Cinder's flaw if she hadn't just gotten an entire lecture about it that she seemingly had taken to heart.
Okay. Well,
it's more so.
Yeah,
It's more so
because for me, with Cinder
takeaway-
dabbing on Neo is Neo's.
What's the point of it? Why does
Yeah.
Cinder give
I mean,
It doesn't cost her anything to throw both Ruby and Neo down the pit.
Maybe it doesn't
Yeah,
cost.
that-
It
that's
doesn't
fine,
cost
that's
her
fine.
anything. It doesn't benefit her in any way either. It
Yeah,
doesn't do
so why
anything.
not do it? If it doesn't cost her anything, it doesn't benefit her.
Well, why do it? Because it does also benefit her, actually, and I've told you ways in which it could possibly benefit her. And her having been told the lesson of try to approach things more intelligently could be like, this is a possible benefit I could possibly use in the future. I will keep this, and I will get rid of the negative thing, and keep the thing that is possibly potentially positive.
I mean,
But
more
she
just a
doesn't-
magnification of.
She just
I'm gonna
has
back up
psychological
Coop here
flaws that-
real quick. I'm gonna back up Coop here real quick because the way I saw it when that happened, I didn't think about it too much, but I kind of had forgotten about the Watts scene, to be honest. That does remind me that that's kind of a dumb thing for Cinder to do, because to me, the way I looked at it is the writers just thought, oh yeah, Cinder's a bitch, she would do this, and the writers had forgotten that Cinder had just gotten that big talking to, because I do agree that overall, Neo really does only benefit Cinder. Neo can't kill Cinder, basically. It doesn't seem like it's really possible for that to happen. So the most, if I think one of the things Coop was, or at least what I was thinking when Coop was saying, so what if Neo tries to betray Cinder? If Cinder knows to just not trust her and just use her continuously, which is what Coop wants anyway, like Coop is saying, it doesn't mean that Cinder needs to actually trust her. She just needs to keep using her, right? Then there's nothing Neo can really do to actually harm Cinder. Like Emerald betrayed Cinder, but she didn't really do anything sneaky to like truly devastate Cinder. She just switched sides, right? And now Cinder would expect that, and Cinder would be aware that Neo could easily do that, so she could just, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, and keep your fake friends also close, right? Like that's what it would be. So I do think that Coop is right in the sense that the writers basically gave her that speech and then didn't.
I will put it to
They
you
forgot
further.
to
take
give
it to heart.
Iroh gave
I will
Zuko
put
that
it-
speech in season 2 of Avatar: The Last
okay.
No,
Airbender.
not the same
Yeah,
thing.
and
No,
guess
that's
what?
not the same thing.
No.
Because
It
Zuko's, they did a good job of
somewhat
specifically.
the same thing, but it is somewhat of the same thing, but it is done in a completely different way.
Yeah, because they specifically address that Zuko relapses and shit like that. It's not the same thing. Like the writers aren't even bringing attention to this, right? Like I basically forgot that Cinder had pushed Neo off, right? When Zuko decides to side with fucking his sister instead of Team Avatar, right? That is made very obvious, and it is a big fucking deal that he does that, and it sets off the rest of his character arc. I don't think this is going to affect Cinder's character at all, right? That's why it's not the same thing at all.
The way they played it when Watts was giving that speech to her was as though it had affected her too. Okay, if Cinder was just going to stay in her previous lane, she would have dropped Watts off of the roof and ignored him. She wouldn't have taken it to heart the way she did and cried over it.
Zuko had an entire night of being sick afterwards.
Yes, but that's not the same thing. I already completely disproved that point, Robert.
I disagree though, because
I don't think this is an excuse, but it is a reason that Cinder's actual main takeaway was that this specific scenario is something she couldn't do on her own. Now, how or why she did what she did to Watts, that's still dumb. I do have problems with that. I don't have as many problems with Neo. Neo isn't as useful as Watts for starters, and Neo is kind of a liability.
Well, actually, if indeed Vacuo isn't as technologically advanced as Atlas, she's more useful than Watson for infiltration purposes.
That's Watts. You know, he's a man of many talents.
Yeah, Neo's a cat too. Also, it's like yeah, cat. I need you to kill the mouse inside the house. It's like cat's like, no, you're gonna feed me, and I'm gonna sit around on your couch and turn off your computer and eat ice cream and lasagna.
I don't know why the Watts thing is to me actually even worse.
Yeah, no, and unironically though, like the Watts thing is worse. Like Watts dying in this episode is actually worse in my opinion.
Yeah, I would go with that as well, because there was like no reason for her to just use the relic in a stupid way like that. It's like yes, Salem, and the fact that Salem accepted that as an excuse of her being like that was kind of.
I don't think
Salem
cares about like the loyalty between her minions, so long as they don't actively betray her.
Yeah, I don't think Salem's actually
the demure way in which Cinder said it.
I don't think Salem's buying it. That's maybe she's saying that, but I don't think she's buying it.
Maybe she's not buying it, but still, like, even if I didn't buy something, like if somebody were to say to me, yeah, I set Atlas even more on fire, even if I didn't buy it, I would be like, oh, you set the place that was already on fire even more on fire to burn hotter, huh? Yeah, you're fucking retarded, Cinder. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of anybody trying to do. Like, why did you do that? Just leave the fucking relic alone until we need to use it for some actual stuff.
Well, like,
I would pretend to buy it in that way. I would have been like, so you set the city even more on fire.
I mean, yes. So my question, and I know this has nothing really to do with anything, are the fires immortal until the staff is used again?
Why is fire in water? Why? Why is fire in water?
They should. I mean, there's a lot of instances where fire can burn underwater. You just got to get it hot enough. But
underwater welders be out here setting fires underwater all the time. It's crazy.
Could have also just been Cinder's way of saying, like, I don't need anything except your help to get me even more power or something like that.
That is what it was. That doesn't, that doesn't excuse doing Watch dirty like that. But
it also doesn't excuse setting the city even more on fire. She was like, yeah, you know what? I just used the relic just to start extra fire.
That's the most like Cinder thing, though. Hey, what do you want to create in order to get rid of these portals?
Just fucking destroy the city.
I don't know. I have all of these BS magic powers. I can do literally anything, and I use it to just create fires anyway. So,
I think the implications of what she actually did is she created a wall, like an impenetrable wall around Watts to basically lock him in while the city fell. I think that's the implication there of what she actually did.
She said fire. I assumed fire off.
Yeah,
like
she's a liar.
I think she set that specific room on fire, and so technically she did add fire to the cities of Atlas because that place is technically in Atlas. Yes, I added to the fires of specifically in one single room.
the fact that she does it and that people are noticing, and that I think it's them trusting the audience to be smart enough to realize, oh, to not have to tell us, like with Zuko, not have to have someone yelling at him, I thought you changed. They trusted us to be smart enough to realize, oh, she hasn't really changed. So that's the end of that there.
I think
I
you're
mean,
putting way too much trust in these people to trust us. And
I
I think
mean,
that's a dumb idea.
I
Yeah,
would say
exactly.
like Cinder has definitely stayed the same. She's just gotten smarter about it, and she knows now. It's like she knows how to play the game with Salem, because whenever Salem rolls up to her, and she's immediately going like apology route and like here's the relic, and Salem's like, oh whatever. It's like I have the 2 relics now. I don't care.
And that is
Yeah.
also
So she
something
kind
that
of
happens.
understands how the game is
Eric-
played now better, at least. She
And
knows
that is
how to get her
also-
bread buttered.
And that is also
Sure.
something that happens in a lot of stories. A character tries to make it, a character is told that they should do something. They receive what is called, an attack by an ally is, what Jonathan Truby would have called that, an attack by an ally. They seem to listen to it, they react to it, and then they decide in the climax whether or not they are going to listen to it, whether or not they are going to change, and they don't always change.
Let's move
To
on. Let's move
Winter
on.
versus Ironwood, because that fight was okay, I guess.
It's like
Uh,
local man shoots gun at random dual wielding woman.
I do like that he is apparently stronger with this big freaking gun than he was when he was dual wielding pistols against Watts. Uh, I I like how this fight ends. I like that Penny chose Winter to be the next Winter Maiden after Winter did her. I guess we could kind of call it a face turn of her own. She disobeyed Ironwood for the first time. Whenever that happened, the first time she's ever disobeyed Ironwood, and that is kind of sets up her being in the words worthy of the maiden power, I guess. And I like that Ironwood got to see that. I'm glad that Ironwood got to see the Winter Maiden powers themselves being used against him when he had been fighting, for the 2 whole volumes to like keep them under control.
I think I did like this. This was something else really that was being talked about back in Volume 7, and this was something I said over and over again, basically, because a lot of people were like, "Oh, why is Penny the Winter Maiden? This is bad." I was like, guys, it's too early to be saying that Penny being the Winter Maiden is bad. Give it some time, see where it actually goes. And a lot of people were talking about like, oh, it should have been Winter because then it would have been more surprising if she decided to join the good guys and stuff like that. But with what they did here, they actually gave Winter, kind of like you're saying, she had this arc of trying to do better. Although I do feel like, I don't know, with like first of all letting Ruby, Weiss, and Penny run off at the end of Volume 7, which she kind of did because she she was injured and stuff like that. She wouldn't have had much of a chance of stopping them
Yeah.
anyway. But then letting like Yang, Jaune, and Ren run off and stuff like that. Like it was, I don't know. I guess it wasn't the first time that she turned on Ironwood, but it is where she's officially like actively rebelling, and yeah, to have it then go to her, that was cool.
Well, her deal
Were we
last
supposed
her
to
deal
be
last
super
volume-
surprised? Were we supposed to feel super
No,
surprised?
no,
'Cause
her,
I
her,
think-
her
okay.
deal her deal last volume and earlier this volume when she let them go into the whale was that she still trusts Team RWBY. Like she still trusts those characters to do the right thing at the end. She's a lot like Ironwood in how cold and dispassionate she can be, but she doesn't have the same level of trust issues that he does. It's kind of weird giving her upbringing. So she was always a little more flexible than he was, and it's that flexibility that made the face turn, her drawing that line at active genocide, more believable, even though I think everyone should draw the line at active genocide, but let's not get into my problems with Ironwood this back half of this volume.
That's a
Um,
talk for another time.
It
yeah,
wasn't
I,
even just back half. It was front half. It was every half, man. There was no
yeah.
no,
this volume in
no,
which
active. Like their passive genocide is a different case. What Ironwood was doing at the end of Volume 7 was passive genocide. It was that there is nothing happening in Tiananmen Square. This is rounding up
Well,
the
he
weakers. and
It's just that. I mean, what? Yeah, I mean that's true. Yeah, but it's still either way. Ironwood was they ruined Ironwood back in Volume 7. That was the point, which is still an issue. And they
Yeah.
never really.
I don't think
And
they did ruin him in Volume 7.
They did.
I think they still.
because
I think they
They
did
still could
because
have
they
saved
never
him.
brought it back. They ruined. Here's the thing. They ruined him because they never brought him back from what they did. Right?
Yeah.
He wasn't
Yeah.
past the point of no return in Volume 7. I'm not saying that they couldn't have saved him or fixed his character back in Volume 7, but he was already
They didn't give
ruined
Ironwood an out
by
to
that
like
point.
chill out. Is the other thing.
Yeah.
Like Ironwood could be like, okay, this is all lost. It's like let's just abandon ship and call it a day.
I agree with
I
that.
think-
He should have been an antagonist up until like episode 12 or 11.
Yeah, because he basically had
12.
at some point forgotten entirely his original goal behind everything, because he was actively working against that result. Because he was basically trying to now get everybody killed, get all of his troops killed, get everything he could use to keep humanity alive killed. Because you need people to keep other people alive. I would say it is, while it was drawn out for over a far longer period, that much the same thing happened with him as what happened with Lionheart. And I said way back then, Lionheart, I think people would have liked him more if he had reversed on his course of helping out the bad guys at the end and finally bucked up and like done something courageous. And just like that, I think if Ironwood had gone through this whole period to where he was being like, overly mechanical about things, and then, found some heart again after a while of seeing, hey, no, I shouldn't be doing stuff like this. This is wrong. Then I think people would have liked him way more.
Agreed.
Like,
no, only lesbians are allowed to have face turns.
nah, I don't.
Look, Ilya,
like sitcoms.
Ilya, Emerald, Blake, if you count, the White Fang stuff.
I
About Hazel.
I don't. Yeah, no. Hazel did it too, and I could also probably at this point buy it out of Mercury as well.
I don't know.
That's gonna be interesting. That's definitely gonna be interesting.
That's one thing
yeah,
that
I
worries me.
there.
I don't know if that's. Yeah, I hope.
Man, with
I
Ironwood
hope-
too,
I hope
like
they don't do that. I
like the
hope they
biggest
don't do the
thing
same
that
thing again.
how they did him dirty was like especially too like the disrespect is whatever he's just on the ground bleeding out and he's reaching for his gun and he's pointing it at Salem and Cinder and they just walk off. It's kind of like a wrestling moment where it's like this guy you just threw through the fucking octagon of pain.
I do like that Ironwood at least got to see Salem in the flesh.
I do appreciate that they at least gave him that. Like if they wanted to fix Ironwood, like he could be like, all right, fine. It's like we'll do the evacuation, and he just ends up, it's like Salem just shows up and he's like, well, I guess this is my time. You can't convict me at the Hague if I'm dead.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways they could have kept Ironwood as the antagonist throughout this entire volume without being dumb about it. And we talked
exactly.
about possibilities when it happened a few episodes ago.
There are very many ways in which Ironwood.
They did that in The Expanse. Does anybody watch The Expanse besides me?
I watched the.
I haven't watched the season after the portal opened.
Okay, so the season where they turned the portal on, right? You remember the Ashford guy, the guy who was kind of being a dick and wanted to destroy everything, right? And he was kind of basically an antagonist at the end of that season. Yeah, they turned him into a total like good guy after that, right? Because and he wasn't an idiot, right? It was just he was wrong. We as the audience knew he was wrong, right? But he didn't know he was wrong, so he thought he was doing the right thing, and he didn't even get in trouble for anything because everybody knew he thought he was doing the right thing. So he was an antagonist without being a dipshit, without being evil. But I mean, The Expanse is so much better done than this show that doesn't surprise me. But that is just the first example that comes to my mind of that.
Look, all I know about The Expanse that I remember is that there was the gunnery sergeant with the pig titties running around, And I was like, yeah, this is good stuff. Thank you, Expanse. You have given me
Yay,
memories.
big mommy milkers.
Yeah.
So I think the only other thing we have to talk about is the Aesop stuff.
I'm
The
not sure I'm
Aesops
convinced
lost
that.
out on their opportunity to kill the Aesops. That's all I'm
Like,
gonna say.
Yeah.
it kind of like annoys me that okay, that Vine basically existed for plot purposes only.
Yeah.
They didn't give us a reason to
Uh,
care about. They didn't give us a reason to care about his death. They probably didn't. They probably didn't give us a reason on purpose so that his death wouldn't take away from Penny's death in this episode, because with his power and stuff, he was the only one who could do that. It's a very because plot thing.
He did it for
Um,
the vibe.
Yeah.
I said this pretty close to the start of the volume that it was kind of reminding me of One Piece, and then it stopped reminding me of One Piece for the last couple episodes. This episode reminded me of One Piece again, where you have these characters, they exist, to fulfill these very, very specific plot points and nothing else. The only reason why Pell had a devil fruit that allowed him to fly is because Oda needed someone to carry the bomb.
hey
But
man, Poe
stuff like
carried that bomb like an absolute G. Okay, he
and
saved
then
the entire
tanking
kingdom of
the nuke
Alphas.
and surviving.
Yeah,
I guess I'm not entirely sure if I buy like his aura being enough to contain a nuke, but
I
Well, I
mean,
mean,
it could just be a fuel air bomb, but
didn't
still.
it didn't fully contain it. Like it did still explode. Like it expanded and then exploded. He just
I
contained it
guess.
a little. He just kept it from taking out the entire city. Like it
Al-
gave a little bit of resistance there.
also, if it had been like an actual straight up nuke, there wouldn't have been any smoke to it. It would have just been big flash.
Well,
Fair
it's
enough.
just a bomb that is as
Yeah, it's
strong
a
as
bomb.
like it's not an actual. It's still a dust bomb.
It's basically a Moab, essentially, is what it is.
Yeah, I can see
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
It's a Moab. Most people don't know what a Moab is.
The Moab is the
Everyone
mother
knows
of
what to do.
all bombs. It's the thing we
is.
drop on
It's just a
people
really
in
big conventional bomb. There's nothing fancy about a Moab. We're like, how many tons of TNT can we strap onto this plane and safely drop
I'm
it?
just saying I'm just saying that
Other
for the layman's out there, even when they see footage of like a Moab being used, they still end up calling it a nuke, even though it's
Oh yes, no. Well, I mean, the Moab does have the equivalency of like a small nuclear bomb in its yield.
yeah.
A very tiny nuclear bomb without all the spicy after effects.
It's like diet soda.
Yes, the Moab is a diet nuclear bomb.
Look, they read Starship Troopers. They were like, we can't make those oxygen-based nukes that don't yield any radiation. But what if we make a bomb that's just big enough to give the same yield as a nuke without the radiation? And
Why?
Robert Heinlein, he looked down on them from heaven and smiled and said, "That's the way to go, boys. Thank you."
I think my big thing, like with the Aesops, my big issue with them is kind of my big issue with Volume 7 and 8 in general, like both of them. My biggest problem with both of them, we talked about how tightly like they worked these, and I agree. I think they did a really good job with that, but I feel like they needed a little more breathing room to develop the Aesops, develop the fact that like Harriet and Clover were close, quote unquote, whatever they decide that should mean, and like again, just more time with a lot of things, more so in Volume 7 than in Volume 8. But that is my big issue with these two volumes.
This
I
episode
would
made me
definitely-
realize that Harriet is the only one who was never like camaraderous with the other Aesop's. Like she's the one who stated that like they're not friends, and she's still like kind of trying to state that like no, it's just my job, it's just my duty. I respect Clover. It's not like I care about him or anything.
It's
Bacchus.
not like I was getting fucked by him.
Uh,
And then like no, we're friends. We've been through a lot together. So shut up and get on our plane.
Well, I
Yeah.
feel even bad for its immovable object woman is like, oh, like these two are probably actually in a relationship. Those two are probably fucking.
Maybe I don't know. My biggest thing from this is like, because like they've been building kind of like towards this kind of like thing throughout like Volume 7 and stuff like that from the very beginning, and plus all the callouts in Volume 8. Especially with like Red's like, I'm just calling everyone out. I see the colors of your wind and whatnot. But the fact is, like I watched this and I couldn't really feel anything because like it's just bad voice acting. Like the only Harriet's the only one I can believe about their emotions. Like it's just like it just felt.
I believe Harriet's emotions more than Immovable Object Lady. Like even
her
though
voice acting
how
was
little
bad in this episode, it was bad.
Even though how little development we had of any of the Aesop members, it's like I could at least believe Harriet like doing the. It's like, why yes. I also had orders, but also made some up on my own in the process.
Yeah, Harriet best Aesop.
And I mean, I like she's a tan tomboy GF that could crush my head between her thighs. So
let's go.
Like I can't be mad at her.
Here's the other issue I have. Again, mostly positive with this episode for sure, right? But there's always stuff we complain about. They've never been super tight with this show, let's be honest. And even with good shows, like I have tons of stuff I can complain about with Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? Now the thing is with the Aesops is like, did anybody give a shit about any of this stuff that was really happening? Like everybody people are already leaving. We know they're not gonna. We know they're not going to actually nuke anybody. I know it's not a nuke, but you know what I mean. I'm just using the colloquial term of like bombing everybody, right? They're not going to Moab everybody, right? Do I give even one iota of a molecule of a piece of shit about Vine dying? No. I mean, I do not care. Do I care about Harriet? No. Do I care about Tree Girl? No. Do I care? Did I ever care about Clover? No. Do I care about Crow right now? Fuck no. And the thing is, like, they did try to make it seem like we should actually give a shit about what happened to Vine, and I'm sorry, but it's really stupid of them to think that we should care about that. Okay?
Yeah, it's stupid because like he didn't like.
If some dummies did actually care about that, then they're wrong, and it's the writer. But it's still the writer's fault for thinking what the Aesops were a bad idea. Adding new characters and then not developing them enough at all was a terrible idea. Stop adding new characters.
They needed more time.
Right. Like I said, I don't think they tried to make us care about the Aesops. I think they purposely left them underdeveloped so that.
Then why did they just kill all of them? Why did they only kill Vine?
Because there's no reason for that. I would have liked that. I said that in my most recent review, but the Vine taking the sacrifice play, it makes more sense than them all just blowing up. Well, it makes more plot sense. Character wise, it doesn't matter. I don't care about any of these characters. I actively despise Robin and Harriet, but like
I would
from
a plot perspective, this is the climax, or this is the resolution of this bomb threat. Though it's not really threatening, everybody had already abandoned ship.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. From a plot perspective, the Aesops are kind of the thing that sort of them and Robin to a certain extent sort of are what it was that drew Crow off from the main plot to have his own little almost completely separate side plot going on, and he has not been interwoven into anything of significance to like the other guys that he's been with this whole time. So I would say that I would go probably with Dude on this one, in that the Aesops probably should have never existed at all, so that maybe Crow could be of some use, and that he wouldn't have taken such a negative hit in opinion of him to go along with these guys that nobody liked, and Robin nobody also liked.
I think he would have done more damage if he'd been butting into the other stories. I think the Aesops just needed to be written better. Like I said, I feel like they just needed to spend a little more time with these characters. That's just me.
If they
That
had done that, yeah, maybe they would have ended up okay, but it still ultimately at the end of the day probably would have ended up being something that didn't really have much matter to any of the main stuff. If the entire purpose of that entire plot thread is just to have a side path for Crow to go on so he's not messing around with anybody else, they then, there's a very easy way to get rid of Crow, which is to just get rid of him, just kill him off, like
Yeah,
beginning Volume 7. Like they could
exactly. That's exactly what I would have said. Is like I Crow should just still not. I mean, I've been saying this for a little while now that he just shouldn't be in here anymore at
Well,
all.
you need to be
We
real
could've just
happy,
got-
dude, because they just managed to write out, literally, unironically, write out Crow and Robin for at least the better part of a volume. Because they
Yeah,
gotta
well,
we
fly,
don't know
they
that
gotta,
for
they gotta,
sure.
fly, they gotta
Okay,
fly,
what
they
we're
gotta fly their ass all the way over to Vacuo.
I can hope so. I'm not sure about that, but I can hope so.
If I was them, I would not bother flying my ass all the way over to Vacuo. If I was Crow, I would be like, yeah, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm done with it. Look, Robin, I got a buddy. He lives on this little island called Patch. He's got a log cabin and a bunch of whiskey under his
He's
fucking
got a really
house.
big dick too, also, but you're not allowed to get anywhere near him.
Okay? Yeah, you're mine now, by the
Crow's
way,
also
Robin. You belong to me.
Oh
You
my
are my
god, what if
woman.
they do that and Raven's there and Crow's like, Ty, I'm sorry, Ruby, Yang, they're both dead, and Raven's like, what? Wait, what? I can still feel Yang. Let me check real quick.
Dude, unironically, like there's two solutions to the Team Ruby question, and that's I actually kind of want like I would assume like this is Crow thinking it like Crow looks over to what's her name, and like they're giving each other like the eye, and it's like, oh, where do we go, Crow? And it's like, well, we can go back to this place. And Raven has been like locked into like a sex swing for like 2 weeks as like repayment for like leaving. And Tai Yang, like, even though he's like in his 40s, he can still lay pipe like the best of them. And
The man knows his plumbing.
the man's a cocksmith, so he's able to like really get at those pipes. You could say he's a real hard pipe hitting motherfucker. Then Crow looks over to Ty. It's like, Ty, can you please stop just like demolishing my sister for like 3 seconds so I can talk to her about like our dead nieces and daughters and stuff. And then as what's her name looks over at just like the absolutely like Ahego destroyed Raven, she's like, wow, I could get that with Ty.
What happened to Marrow? Did we see
Yeah,
Marrow?
he was the one. I guess he was the one piloting the ship with Elm and Vine.
Yeah, he's on the ship with all of the
He's
everyone.
he's on the ship with them at the end.
Yeah, he's there.
I didn't spot that.
Yeah.
I also didn't realize that Nora was over on the Vacuo side until the second time around. I was like, oh, that's her pounding on the door thing, because it was all dusty.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was awesome.
Don't worry. I made sure that she was with Ren. I double checked that. I would have had something to say about.
Yeah, no, they're together.
Oh, wait. Yeah, you did have something to say about that, didn't you, actually? You were saying something about, like, something going on with those two that I couldn't remember exactly.
Yeah, maybe a little something that I was annoyed about.
What was it? Like, what was it that you thought they weren't on the same side of the door yet? Because they weren't for a little bit, but then they were.
I think they were for a little bit, yeah, and then they were, and they are now, and it's a weird thing, and I don't know if I brought this up, but like this just goes back to what I said previously about they're like it's such a weird thing the way they did that scene a few episodes ago, where it's like, okay, so I need time to myself to figure me out before we can be together. Here we are still together next to each other the entire time, and I'm not actually separated from you at all whatsoever.
You say these things, but you don't know what they mean, Nora.
And then even and the weird thing is like the funny thing is you might be thinking that I was making sure that they were together because I wanted them to be together. But actually the reason I was checking to see if they were together was because I'm like, hey writers, are you ever going to commit to separating them the way you said that your character wanted? no, you're not going to do that. So it was completely bullshit, and Nora doesn't actually have any self-esteem issues, by the way, at all.
Dude, just
It's
getting more and more
it's
rational.
literally just like it's like there.
Self-esteem issues. Because if she has self-esteem issues, would we not see those self-esteem issues manifest themselves outside of Ren? Except for the one scene where she mentioned that she is feeling like she has self-esteem issues, just for plot convenience to say that
they are both in a relation. No, it's
Wait,
Renora's cat. If you look inside of the box, they're not in a relationship. But if you don't look inside of the box, they are in a relationship.
Because here's the thing, from what we've seen, they said Nora said she had there's one scene where Nora has had self-esteem issues, or two scenes, and those are two scenes where she told people that she had self-esteem issues, maybe kind of demonstrated one time that she had something that might have resembled self-esteem issues, told Ren she can't be with him because she has self-esteem issues, and then has not demonstrated any semblance of self-esteem issues whatsoever. So yeah, to all the people that said Nora does that's a good reason for them to have had that scene, fuck you, you're wrong, because the writers haven't even followed through on that, because she has
okay, obviously Nora does have self-esteem issues, okay? She's very disappointed in herself for not being able to have the ability to have good self-esteem issues. She finds that lack of talent at having self-esteem issues a very horrible thing that has led to huge self-esteem issues. She just wants to have really bad self-esteem, like your typical girl.
Basically, they've taken one of their best ships and turned it into a whole hot mess.
That is like that, Coop. That is like exactly the only way this makes sense. Thank you for explaining it that way, because that must be the way the writers are thinking, because nothing else makes sense.
Nora looks at a regular girl. She's like, all of these girls just have so many hang-ups. Why can't I be like them?
And then Nora's in like the is in the Tom is like locked into the machine of like the Tom girl indoctrination. And Red has his siege mask on with the hammer, breaking down the window, trying to free Nora from the MD mind controlling device. Is what's going on right now.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, that is actually legit what's happening.
So are we about ready for questions then?
Yeah, let's do some questions, because we're about to fucking kill each other with some of these arguments that we're coming up with right now. This is probably the most fun I've had on a podcast in a long ass time.
I'm probably going to cut some of the chunks from the argument. The points of the argument will still stand.
You have to forgive Robert. He hasn't talked so much. He's been building it up. It's just releasing.
Yeah, unironically, Robert has been edging for this entire volume, and now he's cooming.
Also, and I'm leaving this bit in. Fuck y'all for making me for giving me this much work on my first week at my new job.
Yeah,
fuck you too, media. Enjoy being a fucking wagey.
I see the message I sent you, media.
So if this podcast is not up at 11 a.m. April 3rd, 2021, you guys are the reason why.
You're welcome.
First questions. John Barrison asked 3 questions. Did Atlas's military evacuate, or were they still in the city when it fell? We don't see any Atlas military personnel alive in the last few episodes, but we could assume that they would have gotten on board the nearest ships and gotten out of there as soon as Atlas started falling.
I can tell you right away, that is exactly what a typical military person would have done in such a situation. However, if you want to go by like portal logic and stuff, possibly they dropped a gear so they could run faster, maybe would be a reason that they don't look like military dudes in there. That's the most believable option I can give. Yeah, so like I mean, yeah, there are various somewhat believable reasons, but I will go with the old adage of if I didn't see it, it didn't happen. So I don't think there were any military guys in the portals with everybody.
I don't think so. I don't think so easier. That would have been a really easy thing to do because they have like 3 models for all the Atlas military guys. So the
Yeah.
more believable thing would be that as soon as Atlas started dropping, they actually just abandoned ship.
Yeah, they just abandoned ship.
Yeah,
Unless they make it like
and probably took some people with them. Not gonna lie, they probably helped keep some of the people out of the portals and therefore out of Vacuo. But that's
Yeah.
just speculation. So, second question: if Vine's arms can stop a nuke, how does he not one-hit KO any opponent? Because durability does not always equal strength.
Yeah, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Nah, it is. If you're hyper durable, obviously your arms are made of steel, and whacking people with a steel arm is more wacky than whacking them with flesh arm. This is known.
lightweight, baby.
Well,
Ah!
that has more to do with weight than the actual durability. No,
Yeah, because what happened when it exploded was like his like the bubble he created with his arms did like expand a bit, right? So I think it's more like a flexible durability. Like, and I know that steel is more durable than iron because it can flex instead of just shatter, but like,
well, iron kind of it's malleable, and most metals are like that too.
We're getting into plastic deformation here.
we might be going.
I went to school for this. I would know because I used to cut metal. Now I'm just a fucking glorified janitor, and I make 27 an hour. Don't at me.
I mean, I went to
Hey, I'm a
school
dishwasher.
I went to school for electronics tech, and I'm a glorified janitor too. So like, it always ends up being that way. You either die in electronics tech, or you live long enough to see yourself become a janitor.
All right, next question, media.
Final question from John Barriston. Do you think it's funny that Jaune has killed more of the protagonists than Salem? Jaune's been in the show a lot longer than Salem.
Yeah, John's.
No,
yeah.
it's actually kind of hilarious.
That is a funny point. That is a funny point.
It is funny. Yeah, I think it's funny.
Listen, I don't got any argument for it. It is
What's
what it
more
is.
The Arctic Union asked, "Do you think Ironwood and Watts survived that?" I would like. Well, I'd like Watts. I wish he survived
Yeah,
to the end of this
I hope
volume.
Watts
I don't think he
survives.
would. If he does that, that'll be the second time that they've copped
Debated
out.
it to death.
Yeah. Ironwood,
Really
I
good
think
swimmer.
there's nothing more he can add to the story. He is better dead at this point.
The question is, do we sacrifice Watts to also kill Ironwood? Which is better? That's the thing.
Yeah.
If we had to make that choice, which of those choices would we make? I don't know. That's a tough one for me.
John Chung asked 3 questions. Why did they give Ironwood that clunky gun? You call it clunky, yet he was still able to hold his own against Winter Schnee. So
yeah, it ain't that clunky.
And it wasn't just like he wasn't just big cannon. He was also able to just like oh, I'm just gonna take my gun out.
He was unironically just fucking pip slapping Winter around with it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
The idea of weapons being clunky is kind of a moot point when your main character uses a giant scythe.
Although it does seem like it's this big extension that he needs to put his attached to his other guns. Like it's not a part of his other gun. So in that sense, it does seem like it would be kind of impractical and to carry around and stuff like that. But
so are all the weapons in the show. It's kind of part of the charm. Second question: do you think they're going to bring back Penny again? No.
No. That's a very solid no.
This is a very permanent style death. She's not a robot anymore. She's not.
If she comes back, I will mail you one of my 1-ounce silver coins if she comes back.
Like they launched the guy who made her into the upper atmosphere, where he probably died of asphyxiation from lack of oxygen. And they got rid of her robot body and all of the backup drives on it via full disintegration. And then they had her stabbed repeatedly in the chest, not 1, not 2, but a total of 6 times. And she then transferred her maiden powers over in a soul-to-soul communication scene, implying heavily due to the fact of a completely white background that, yes, welcome to the afterlife, Penny. You're here forever. You can't go back. Here's your angel robe and your halo. I would
I mean,
be
she
very
does-
astounded if they
She gets
decided
a
to go-
harp too, right? Because that wouldn't be fair.
Someone
No,
needs
no,
to
harp.
commission like an Eastern Orthodox drawing of Penny as a saint.
Yeah.
Aw, that would be cute. They might have Pietro like create like her sibling or something like that. Although I'm not sure he has enough aura in him to do that.
Be cheap, I think.
Is Penny is in the afterlife. She sees Watts. Watts goes to her. Yeah, so like right when I was burning in the flame, I saw the apparition of Jesus Christ before me, and I asked forgiveness for all of my sins, and so now I'm here with you.
Through fire and flame, she carries on.
Yes.
Was that a direct quote from Dragon Force?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. John Chung's final question was asking about the Atlas military. We already answered that. Blade Charge asked 3 questions. Do you think the tree is the tree of life? No.
No.
I mean,
Is there a tree of life in RWBY? Is that a
is
thing?
there even a tree of life in RWBY? That's
Please don't add more crappy lore to this show because
As a
they
Christian,
keep shoving in
I am
is
firmly
bad.
against this paganism here, so you can get out.
Okay.
Shots at Adam
Don't
with
make me
5
burn you
Eves.
at the stake.
Shots
you're
at Adam with
forgetting about
5 Eves.
You're forgetting about Gnosticism and the clip-off, man. I mean,
Those
think
guys
about
are
it.
autistic. Don't get me started on Gnosticism.
Second question, do you think the brother gods could be on that island? That's more of a possibility, though I don't think we're going to get them, especially when the Brother of Light's voice actor, I know they could obviously recast him, but his voice actor kind of went on a tirade about how RWBY is actually garbage and how he was just taking a paycheck.
That's funny.
Based and red-pilled?
I was gonna say very based. that's
Hold
very
on a
based.
second, my phone's ringing. Oh, it's the base department. They just confirmed that it is based.
Somebody send me the link of that because I was not aware of that. I really want to see it.
He was on EFAP, Mahler's 10-hour weekly podcast thing that he does.
God.
I think it's more just like I think if he just like it's like if it is like a god of light, god of darkness kind of like thing, where it's just gonna be like, oh, they're not actually gods, they're just aliens. Just because someone said alien planet earlier.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, he's right, especially because if that's the thing he was involved in, I'm sorry. I said this back when they did it originally. I fucking hated the Salem and Ozpin origin story. I think it's fucking stupid. And I think the gods are a dumb idea. I think the Mayans are a fucking stupid idea. I think Ozpin's a dumb character. Okay. Now, again, still positive about this episode overall. I want to reiterate that. But I think all that stuff is really dumb. So please don't let like gods or anything. Please just the fact that we have to have them is annoying. Can they just please be at the very last second of the show if they have to be in it at all? Again, the thing is, here's their opportunity. This is the thing I'm worried about. Okay, here's what I want. They have a great opportunity to just have the kids alone by themselves. No adults, no Maria, no Crow. If they fuck this up and add new characters or anybody, they didn't even put Oscar there, which I'm so happy about. No Ozpin, just Team RWBY plus Jaune and whoever random people there. If they fuck this up,
Yes,
and
return to tradition.
Add adults telling them what to do and guiding them, I will be even more mad about that than what they did to Renora. And you know that's serious if I'm more mad about that. Okay? I'm gonna.
They really just need
because they have they're setting it up perfectly. Do not fuck this up. Do not fuck this up. Do not fuck this up. Okay.
They really just need to give these 5 the chance to develop and shine. For heaven's sake, please.
Yes, thank you.
Blade Charge asked, "How screwed is Cinder when Salem finds out that Cinder lied to her?" Again, I don't think Salem cares.
Salem does not care. She has both 2 relics now.
She knows. She knows. I already said that. She's not buying it.
She has 2 relics and also immortality. Like, she can just sit on these 2 relics for 100 years, get newer, better recruits, and then pick up the plan from there if she wanted. Like, these people do not matter to her.
I will say this though, like Cinder, she still should have been like, even at Cinder levels of intelligence, you should always still be smart enough to realize that I set extra fire to a place is not a good and believable lie.
Yeah, I mean, I
Just
agree with
Fair
that,
enough.
but again, I think it is that again, just Salem doesn't care. She's
yeah.
she's just letting Cinder believe it, right? That's what I mean. That's personally what I think.
Look,
Uh,
if hey, okay, maybe she doesn't care. Maybe Cinder knows that she doesn't care, in which case, like, why lie in the first place? But even if Cinder doesn't knows that she doesn't care and is just trying to give her a bullshit excuse that she knows is bullshit, you can at least put some effort into it. Okay? You can, like, if I'm gonna lie, I'm gonna put maximum effort into that lie to make it seem like it's at least reasonably believable, so that somebody can have a reaction to me of, that's total bullshit, but I fucking buy it.
Chris Edward asked, "Do you think the writers wrote themselves into a wall?" First of all, the phrase is writing themselves into a corner. Writing themselves into a wall isn't a thing that people say. Secondly, like I said at the outset of this podcast, this ending leaves a lot open for them to do. Like it's the opposite of a corner. They're now in the middle of a big, freaking spacious room with no furniture and blank canvas walls.
And
I
they've
feel
been
like
teasing this other world since Volume 5. Like, they acknowledged in the Volume 5 commentary that, this is another place that is going to come into effect later on and stuff like that. This is going to be relevant later on. So they've been
Huh,
hinting
realize
at this since Volume 5 and stuff like that. So I'm. And you talked about this a little while ago, Media, the fact that they do have outlines, they have ideas. Whether or not those are as detailed or as, in order as they should be or as flexible as they should be is a debate, but they do seem to have an idea ahead, so I'm confident that they know where they are going with this. So
especially
yeah, I
since
don't think
like
so.
the volume 9 scripts are, as far as I know, like done now. Like they are in full production swing on volume 9 already.
Yeah, like they've been on that for a while, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this though,
The first time I heard the
writing
first time
yourself into a role seems like a good phrase. We should come up with a thing that means
yeah.
now.
Yeah, the first time I heard them talking about writing volume 9 was back in December. So that was like almost 4 months ago now.
Oh, I figured out a way to use the phrase. Okay, so here it is. Writing yourself into a corner means that you limit your amount of options. Writing yourself into a wall, you could steer away from the wall, but you're going full force on that bitch. You're doing a
You
crash
have to
test on
take the chat
So
option
like
and
with
simply
so
drive
with
through the wall.
Ironwood. So with
it.
Ironwood,
Yes.
they wrote themselves into a wall.
Yeah. That's what
And
they
I
were
like
doing with
that. I
him.
like that. I like that. We should
Fair
we
enough,
should
yeah.
try to incorporate that. Upjohn one
I will
asked
spread it around places.
how do you feel about Penny coming back only to die again? She did a lot of stuff in between there, so like she was a robot before. I always believe she was gonna come back. There are a lot of very important like philosophical questions that needed to be answered regarding her entire existence that weren't answered by the end of Volume 3. They're all answered now. We know we have the general idea of what a soul is. We know that the soul makes a person, not the actual like stuff that person is made out of. The she's done. She fulfilled her purpose. There's no reason to bring her back.
And again, I really like the gutsy. I feel like it was decently gutsy of them to perma kill her this time. It would have been very easy to just kill her as a robot and bring her back later and make it feel like there were no consequences. But the fact that they actually had the guts to kill her for good this time, I thought that was really, really cool.
Second question: do you have any expectations for Salem down the road, despite her not doing anything this volume? Uh, I expect her to take a more active role just because of how many villains she lost. Like
Yeah, I will agree with that.
Neo is in the void. Watts is dead. Hazel is dead. Emerald went on a face turn. That's four people that Salem's crew lost. Salem is gonna have to like start taking a more active role or recruit new villain characters, which I would. If they're gonna introduce more characters, I always prefer them to be villains than heroes.
There,
They're
there
definitely
is
gonna be
one
like
thing.
back to it based.
There is one thing in this episode that, like, about Salem that kind of aroused a little bit of ire in me. We now have basically like three separately said motivations for Salem. She in this episode basically said that they were destroying the world in order to replace it with a utopian ideal, pretty much, to Cinder. And
It's
yeah,
cool.
and
I actually dig that as Salem's motivation.
yeah, it unfortunately goes against like all of the other ones that we've been told. Okay, we have the Tyrion and Oscar. We have the Tyrion one of she wants to destroy the world. That's cool. It's part one of this motivation. We have the Oscar one of yes, she wants to destroy the world, but not because she wants to destroy the world. She's just trying to commit suicide with a few extra steps, and it just happens to get us all wrapped up in it. And so there's that one. We have the side book one that is of the least canonicity, where she wants to dominate the world. That kind of ties into this one that she said here recently. So I still have no fucking idea what it is Salem wants.
There's some unreliable narrator stuff with Tyrion and Hazel earlier, and even Oscar. Like the only one who knows exactly what Salem plans to do is probably Salem. Like a
Not
lot
even
of the
Miles
other
and Carrie
things,
know
a
what
lot of the
Salem
other
wants.
things, a lot of the other things you could chalk up to her lying. And like Tyrion, he just wants destruction and chaos.
Yeah, he
So
doesn't
yeah,
care what she's
obviously.
gonna do. He's just gonna do whatever she tells him to do.
So obviously she's gonna tell him that like, yeah, all we're gonna do is destroy the world. Hazel has a lot more like noble aspirations, so of course she's gonna tell him, no, we're gonna take over the world and make it a better place. And Cinder wants power, so like Salem is gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna take over the world, and then you're gonna be like a governor of part of that world, or like it makes sense that nobody has all the information yet, and it keeps things open for later plot points with her.
It keeps
Yeah.
things open to make
But
it whatever the fuck they decide they want it to be at the tail end when they can finally figure it out rather than having something in place from the beginning is basically what we're saying.
still, the idea of wanting to destroy the world just so she can die and stuff like that, that one makes the
That was
most sense. That one would make the most sense to me. But
and that was Ozma's slash Ozpin's theory.
Yeah. Again,
And
that
he's
also
no, and
shows how
has,
dumb
he has,
Salem's origin story is, though, because she would be better off. That's just such a stupid idea. Ugh, I hate the origin story.
I mean, like the origin story does write her into a few different corners, but they are all corners and not walls. It's a wall with many corners. Man, my metaphors are getting weird now.
yeah. So final question from Upjohn1. Are you disappointed that Crow and Robin are still alive? A little bit, but they're
So I
hopefully
am
written out of the show,
disappointed.
so I'll take what I can get.
I am disappointed they're still alive, but there's also a part of me that just wants like Crow and Robin to just disappear into the woods and have kids and then just be written out of the story.
They should. They should do like I said. They should go to Patch, be like, "Yo, Ty, you still got that bottle of the premium liqueur that I gave you like 30 years ago?" And he was like, "Yeah, I still got it. Okay, you're gonna need to bust that out, man. We're starting some shit now." Like the whole you having daughters thing, that didn't work out. We got to make new ones.
And we gotta start over again. We gotta go back to the drawing board.
Quiet Message asked 3 questions. One, think the characters that died had appropriate send-offs, or could they have been handled better? We are not getting into this again. Watts was dumb. Everyone else was fine. That's my opinion. 2, has your image of Cinder improved with this episode? Not really. Too much pettiness coming from her.
I think
Yeah,
she's back to being to feeling like an effective villain, something that she lost after Volume 5. But she is still a shitty human being.
It makes her less formidable too. That's the other problem with it. Is in this case, her being even shittier of a human being makes her less formidable of a villain, which is a problem. I feel
Yes.
like.
Yeah. Third question. Think it'll be mentioned how Pyrrha killed Penny the first time and Jaune killed Penny the last time? Maybe. I think it's more likely that it is mentioned that Jaune was involved in the deaths of Amber, Pyrrha, and Penny. Like, all of them.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
gonna eat at him.
Which this actually reminds me, one of the things that they changed in Volume 3 that we know about was that Jaune was going to be up in the tower with Pyrrha when she died, and and that she was going to like sacrifice herself to directly save Jaune. So I'm glad that they changed that in Volume 3 because that would have kind of made this feel like a repeat instead of an escalation of those same kind of themes. Travis Herndon says a lot of things, but I think it boils down to why didn't they mention Ironwood semblance in the actual series?
That's been a
Because
good question for the
Because it was
entirety of Volume
bullshit
7
and
and
it didn't
Volume
make
8.
any sense.
Ironwood semblance is dumb, and it would
It makes no
actually make me
sense.
like
It's
him
bullshit.
less. It would actually make me like him in this volume less if they explain that.
You would think it impossible to hate him even more, but it is possible.
Planet Defeated asked about Watch. We already answered that. It was a waste. Aragon Dovahkiin asked if you could change one thing about this volume, what would it be?
Less
Ironwood's
rushed.
plan. Ironwood's plan being less dumb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would change that.
Ironwood and less rushed.
And I know,
That's
dude,
two
and I
things.
know, dude, and I know, dude would want to fix Renora.
You guys don't agree with me on that? I mean, that's pretty important.
I would,
Like my second
We're
thing,
covering all
okay?
the bases.
Yeah, I'm not saying it has to be the number one thing. Honestly, if I'm being like objective, it's not the number one thing for me either. Because they can still make it kind of okay. It just will never be as good as it could have been. Like the payoff moment. Basically, their relationship could end up still being good. It's just that it doesn't make sense, and the payoff moment of them actually getting together is now very, very strongly nerfed. But the Ironwood stuff is actually objectively worse for the show overall. So my actual number one thing to fix would have been Ironwood. Also, Ironwood was a bigger problem for 2 volumes, even though Ren and Nora were a problem-ish for like a volume and a quarter maybe in total from the last 2, I guess, because Ren was being an idiot in the last volume. So actually, for me, number one would actually be Ironwood as well. Nor would also only be number 2 for me. So
I would have reduced the body count of the villains just because like you're getting rid of a lot of guys to put up in fights against the good guys in the next volume. And the like end of the day, why are we hooked on RWBY? It's for the fights, guys. That's all it's ever fucking been. We wanted cool actiony scenes with people fighting each other.
It's the
with cool
fights and the
dances.
waifus.
Yeah.
Fights and waifus, fight foos, if you will. And
What was the
we have
question?
been we have been stripped of much of the fight part of that.
What would I change?
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the A subs basically. I'd change those.
Connor Hines asked, "How would you rank this volume in comparison to the others?" I didn't like it as much as Volume 6. I liked it more than Volume 7 and Volume 3. So it's kind of a
2 or
toss.
3?
It's a toss up between this and Volume 4 as my second favorite volume.
I'm not any good at ranking stuff. I don't make top 10 lists of shit. Like, it was reasonably decent at points, and some of the other stuff was like not great. It's median level for me. I would actually say probably the way it kind of went back on like a lot of the stuff from Volume 7 while simultaneously like paying off a lot of the stuff from Volume 7. This is like all over the place for me. I think this is the most random do I like it volume of all of them. So I would probably put it just as average overall.
Yeah, like I really liked this volume, but like in comparison to the other volumes, it's barely top 3. Maybe it's like 4th place.
I like the volume, but like I'm not saying that the volume is bad, but I don't want to say it's top 3 because I don't know.
It feels like a fourth place.
It feels like a solid fourth place. Like I feel like this volume is kind of like the bar of entry to be in the top 3 volume wise.
Yeah, because there's just really good points about the volume. It's just like a big, as mentioned earlier, a big part of these series is supposed to be like, especially for something like this, is like the fights and stuff like that, and there just weren't that many fights. There was really bad plot points and really good plot points, but like and little
the fights had better consequences and meaning though than a lot of the other good quote unquote good fights from earlier. Like I definitely
of fights.
Yeah, I only noticed it for like one episode, maybe. I think I mentioned it in one podcast, but I hadn't really noticed it until then, so it wasn't that big of a deal, I guess. I definitely would put this top 3 because the only other ones I like as much as this one are I like 3, 4, and 6 are the other ones that I like, but I think that 3, we know that 3 was only half of a good volume in the first place, and this was not only half of a good volume. And if I credit the issues with Ironwood to volume 7, because that is when they already decided to destroy him, then that would definitely put this at least in 3rd for me. I'm going to have to rewatch more of the show, honestly, at some point.
Yeah,
I only want to rewatch this one, but I might do a rewatch of the whole.
I will say this: Volume 7 and Volume 8 can be sold together as one unit. More than any other volume.
That would lower it down for me then. I was not that big of a fan of Volume 7.
I feel like if you had to sit down and start from Volume 7 and go to Volume 8, I have a feeling the viewing experience would actually be very good. If you just sat down and watched 7 to 8 in like one sitting.
I may do that. I may watch through the whole series because I sometimes forget that volumes 1 and 2 existed.
I mean, like we've done that before on previous volumes, especially when a new one's coming out, or just at the end of the finale.
I used to do that. Yeah. I used to watch the show all the way through and then watch like the new season.
Being that it's 8 years in, I think it's probably an opportune time. I would say about this one, like it's got like 2 main struts holding it up, which is like it's got like the Salem strut and it's got the Ironwood strut. The Ironwood one is very weak and bendy, and it's probably like fucking bent in the middle and like it's sagging over to that side. The Salem strut is pretty firm, pretty solid, pretty stable. But it's just leaning super hard on that Ironwood one, and it looks like it didn't quite snap off and just completely fall down from it. But it is bending heavily over on that end of things. And I would apply probably the same if you want to wrap a volume 7 into it. I'd probably apply the same thing to it. It's just the early parts of volume 7 that have prevented it from completely breaking on that side of stuff.
Wrapping this up, we got 2 more questions, both from Light Dragoon 88. On a scale of 1 to 10, how was Jaune this volume? He didn't actually do that much outside of this last episode, so I'll give him a 7.
I'm gonna give him a solid 7 to 8 out of 10.
All he did was pretty much in this last episode, but he did some cool shit in this last episode other than whine like a bitch. So I'll give him.
He had some cool action beats when they were chasing the Hound.
Yeah.
That's true.
And there was also him getting Ren and Yang to stop fighting.
I don't care that Ren and Yang were fighting.
I mean,
okay,
was it also his idea to basically talk Winter into like, hey, like let us just go and save our let us just kind of like
I thought that was Weiss's idea.
It was a joint effort.
I mean, well,
pretty sure that was Jaune. It was just like, hey, let us go be your scouts.
I'd have to watch that again. I don't remember who it was that did it.
That does seem like a Jaune thing to do.
It's very Jaune. Like
he's the strategist.
I
probably dropped that crap.
I give him a 7.
I'm biased. So I'm gonna go 8.
And
I'll,
then
I'll, I'll give him an 8. He was doing some reasonably decent stuff.
Yeah, like I don't know. I like John's like my favorite character, so I
Yeah.
have to. I'm biased.
Yes, Jaune is the
wasn't drawing
strategist.
he
Whenever he
wasn't doing
dumped all of his
anything
stats into
particularly
strength and
stupid.
charisma.
He wasn't doing anything particularly stupid either. So
Maybe
last
one day he'll finally be good. Who knows?
last question: do you think Volume 8 suffers the good first half, terrible second half that Volume 6 and Volume 7 seem to have? I
no,
think
and
just the
neither did
opposite.
they.
I think just the opposite. I don't think I do think the back half of Volume 6 was weaker than the first half, but was still better than most of the good parts of other volumes. Volume 8, I think the second half was actually better than the first half. Like the first half didn't have much going on. You had the first episode, which was kind of like running in place. The Penny versus the Aesops didn't really do that much. Yeah, Penny got the virus, and I guess the halfway point of this volume was lifting Amity up. That mattered, that was resolving major plot thing from Volume 7. But other than that, like what happened in the first half, like Oscar got kidnapped. Yeah, the Hound stuff with Yang, but like the Hound stuff with Ruby versus the Hound, this identity crisis with Penny, this whole scheme and stuff, like all of that was in the second half of the volume, and so I do think the second half was actually stronger, even though there were things that upset me in the last few episodes.
The
It
only
went.
real weakness other than the rushing was Ironwood.
Yeah, it went
Renora.
from.
Don't forget that was a weakness too.
Yeah.
It went
Never
from
let
like,
us
And don't forget,
Yes, it was a weakness.
don't forget also that episode 1 of this volume was crap, right?
Yeah.
That was a really
Yeah.
bad episode. So that also kind of keeps it more even in a way. I think the last 2 episodes were very good overall. And I think overall, at least my impression right now, having not like rewatched the whole thing together, is that it was pretty even overall.
I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
like,
like,
we gotta think about it too, like how far we came from like episode 1 of this volume in a span of what, sub 4 days of Atlas existing as a country to Atlas not existing as a country.
And Mantle,
That
neither of them
too,
exist now.
yeah. Neither
it's
of
like-
them exist, so it's a lot of stuff got done in this volume in the time frame that it was all put in. It's kind of impressive. I feel like that's kind of something we kind of forget about, because it's like episode 1 and 2 are like, oh, we're doing like our sneaky plans and stuff to get everyone in Mantle safe, and then it kind of goes sideways from there. And I'm not saying sideways in a bad way. It just goes sideways in like, oh, we're just, the wrench man is throwing all these wrenches in the gears.
Yeah, I would say like the first part of it is probably like, it's the most simplified and like streamed down, but it's more boring than the second half. Second half is like a very erratic. I would it went like all over the place, bouncing back and forth, swinging like a friggin' pendulum in the second part.
Yeah.
And I was like, and that constant like shifting around, it really threw you for a loop, basically, in the second half. And while it was interesting to watch, like it was also sort of like weirdly satisfying and upsetting at the same time.
I'm just glad I'm not as negative as I was in the first episode. I'm sitting here like, oh, I'm relieved.
Well, no. Here's the thing. I have to realize. Like, this is why I said This is why I said at the beginning I'm so frustrated, and I know I keep harping on it. If I had gotten my good Renora resolution, this would by far be my favorite volume, because otherwise, I got everything that I asked for, which has never happened before. Okay. Because what did I remember? Go back to like maybe end of volume 6, probably, or like into volume 7 or whatever. What did I want? I wanted the villains to win, and technically Cinder and Salem did win. They got the relics, right? They won. I wanted Atlas to fall. I wanted the heroes to lose Atlas. They did. It's fucking gone. And so is Mantle, and a lot of people are dead, right? I got that too. And I
You are
wanted
right, Coop.
I want them to
dude.
I want them to lose their fights and get to go to Vacuo with their tails between their legs. I literally said it basically exactly that. That's exactly what happened. And even better than that, some of them, we don't even know where the fuck they are. They're going to have to get out of wherever the fuck they actually are. Only less than half of them are even in Vacuo with their tails between their legs, not knowing what the fuck to do. I got exactly what I wanted. They lost, and it got dark, and the heroes lost. That's exactly what I wanted, and the stakes are higher. It didn't happen in the way I wanted it to, because I thought it would be Salem, not Ironwood, and Ironwood was dumb the way he did it. But you know what? The end result was exactly what I wanted. So that's why I was frustrated about not getting that one last little thing that would have made this the ultimate volume for me. Because otherwise, I got exactly what I wished for on the podcasts. The things that I said I wanted, they gave me. So
Agreed.
it's like I'm like so happy about everything else. So overall, I am actually happy, which is why I want to put this volume so high right now. It's because all the end result, the ending to me is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And that's what at least for this volume, I got the ending of the Atlas arc that I wanted. Everything basically that I wanted out of it. So yeah, I'm thrilled overall. So I like this volume because of that.
I don't know. I feel monkey's pawed by this volume. I think we got what we wanted, but not in the exact way we wanted it.
That's true. Like I said with Ironwood, we didn't get it in the way we wanted. So I agree with you on that for sure. But by the standards of RWBY, I never thought I would get this much. Not getting it the way getting the what you want, even if it's not the way you want, is like a 99% for this show.
Well,
Okay,
much like RWBY, we got what we wanted, but at what cost? Strokes my Watts Dakamara.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is real true. We gotta have a moment in silence for, as a fellow king, I have to put a moment of silence in for another fellow king of Watts passing. So, I'm gonna have a moment of silence for Watts
and
on the podcast.
And then we will wrap this up. If you like what you see and hear, you want to see more, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon, consider supporting my Patreon, join the Discord. I got a lot of new goodies in the works for the next few months. The Volume 8 video will come out by the end of April. I'm not making any promises, especially with my new job. But the next video after this review and podcast will be Quint Part 5. And then I got Boruto video I'm doing. I got more Quint videos I'm doing. I got some other little goodies that I may be cooking up for the next couple months. So keep an eye on that community tab. YouTube does not like notifying my subscribers for non-RWBY content. My community tab is the best way to keep up to date. Or joining my Patreon and joining the Secret Squirrel server that is linked to that Patreon. I give updates on whatever I'm working on there as well. But if you are short on cash with this economy, pandemic still going on, at least keep an eye on my community tab for more information about what is coming up on my channel.
Yeah. I also have like a weird bit of self-promotion to do that I probably wish I kind of wasn't. For some reason, I got the urge to do another fucking chapter in the fanfic I wrote. I posted it on fanfic if y'all want to fucking look at it. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm sort of depressed about it. I don't know. I start high and I go low. Life's a bitch.
All right, everyone. Have a nice night. Goodbye.
Later. Good night.
Happy hunting.
Bye.